podcast space. We just heard that I think Travis Kelce is getting a $100 million contract. So these numbers that's where they're at. I think people don't realize how big the podcasting space is and the revenue that you generate from sponsorships and memberships. I can say that I just announced I've been contacted by the FBI as a victim of a potential victim in a crime. They have stated that I may have information relevant to their ongoing investigation and requested a voluntary interview. So
what's going on, everybody? So I watched Tim Pool talk on Ben Shapiro today. He did an interview and he brought Tim Pool on. I've been waiting to hear from him, Benny Johnson, Lauren Chen, just to see what they were saying. So Tim talked for about 20 minutes. If you want to see the full thing, you can watch Ben Shapiro's show. I have a few clips that I thought were interesting, including Tim say that he was contacted by the FBI for the Department of Justice probe on the whole Russia media thing. I had a few things to talk about, and I wanted to play a few of these clips. And then I'm going to try to keep this one under 30, 40 minutes and make it a watchable episode. So that's what this is today, folks. Dream Rare Podcast, rare episode starts now.
It's the Dream Rare Podcast. Welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles. Yeah.
What's going on, folks? So I'm going to just keep on documenting this situation because I find it interesting, and I'm not going to talk to people. I'm just going to jump right into it and try to keep it a short and concise episode as much as I can. So Tim Pool went on Ben Shapiro to talk about how he was basically not named but implied in a DOJ what looks like accusation. I don't know if it's a full-blown charge yet or the exact linguistics of it, but they were accusing a media company called Tenet Media, which was founded, I believe, by or run by Lauren Chen, who's a popular conservative vlogger, whatever you want to call her, with her husband. But Tim Pool was a part of that deal, and he had a licensing deal with them. And a lot of people since then, of course, liberals will point to Tim Pool and say, see, we've proven that you've worked with Russia. A lot of conservatives have Tim's back, and they're saying, well, you know, Tim didn't do anything. This seems like a setup, and it's Russia. And then what I noticed is you have a lot of Republicans and conservatives that are trying to throw Tim under the bus, and they are, you know, really going hard at him like the liberals are without giving him a chance to really speak or say what happened. So I'm going to play a few clips of him speaking. Of course, I'm not going to play the full episode. All rights to Daily Wire and Ben. He aired this episode, so if you want to watch more, you can watch that. I just picked out a few clips to see what he was saying about it, and they're pretty short, so you got to see the full thing. But I'll give you a breakdown because I watched it.
And we decided to license it out because Lauren contacted us and was saying, you know, we'd love to license something from you. And I said, well, we don't need to do that. We're an independent company. We have our own members and sponsorships. And then it took quite a while, but long story short, we agreed to a non-exclusive broadcast license, which meant that we own the show.
So Tim explained for minutes, like, basically, we don't need the money. You know, I'm doing well on my own. I get a lot of offers all the time. I've known Lauren Chen. She offered some sort of non-exclusive licensing deal for one part of his podcast. I think it's called Culture War. It's not his most popular podcast. It's one he does on other topics. And he was approached, in his own words, saying, like, you know, we want to put it on our website, use your likeness, but you could still own it. And personally, I believe Tim Pool. Like I said, I'm just going to say this because I'm not like I've probably been more rude to Tim Pool than most people. I don't like him personally, and I make jokes about him constantly. But in this situation, like, I do think he's telling the truth. And when you're the size of Tim Pool, like, you know, his podcast, not his actual size, but when you're the size of Tim Pool, you probably do get a lot of offers, and he's worth a lot of money. You know, his business is probably worth millions or tens of millions. And these type of offers, I know he was kind of brushing it off in this episode. Like, you know, it's not a big deal, or like, I guess we just said yes. And, you know, I was like, you said yes because they offered you a lot of money. Like, even though you're worth a lot of money, you make a lot of money. If someone has the right deal, I don't know exactly how much they paid, but people are floating the numbers around. If you watch this interview, it's kind of funny because Tim acts like, oh, basically he just pretends like he did it as some like massive favor to the people. Like, we don't need to do this, but like, I was like, whatever, you can have it. And it's like, bro, they offered you a shitload of money and you took the money. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing bad about that, but it's like his demeanor is so funny and douchey to me, but it's okay. Let's look at the second part.
So when she said that she was launching a company, she had investors. I'm like, Okay. I mean, I hear that 50 times a year. And in the podcast space, we just heard that I think Travis Kelce is getting a $100 million contract. So these numbers that's where they're at. I think people don't realize how big the podcasting space is and the revenue that you generate from sponsorships and memberships. So it seemed kind of, I don't know, mundane to a certain extent. A lot of people think these numbers are huge.
So what he's saying, like, he's not wrong. People are looking at the numbers, and I think they're trying to accuse him, saying like, and I'm not saying he made this, because I'm trying to be real. If you notice, I'm trying to be real careful with my words, because I want to be accurate and not just throw accusations around. But in the DOJ thing, I think somebody was paid $400,000 a month, $100,000 signing bonus. So I think people are speculating that it's Tim, and he's making that much, perhaps for not doing that many episodes. And Tim's response is, which I agree with, actually, he's like, this is a big space. Like, Joe Rogan is doing hundreds of millions of dollars with Spotify. They offered Travis Kelce $100 million podcast. Like, this industry is absolutely booming. And somebody like Tim Pool, he not only has established himself as a personality, but perhaps more importantly, because his personality is not that great. But jokes aside, not really joking, but jokes aside, Tim has built a great business. He has a website. He has a subscription model. He has guests. He has a live show. He has booking. He's built a really good business model. So anybody that wants to get involved, they see the value in that, not just him as a person, but the entire structure behind it. So what he's built is worth a lot of money. Like, I don't know, for his side podcast, it's not, as Tim is saying in his defense, it's not unbelievable to, like, if you were just doing something and nobody was watching it and someone's like, here's $5 million. And that would seem a little unusual. But for Tim, the point that he's trying to make to people that are like, you had to be paid by Russia directly and you had to know what you were doing because you were getting these huge sums of money. Like, it is a lot, like $400,000 a month. That's astronomical. But if he has a whole staff, if he has to pay for other stuff, if he's already rich, like, it's not that much money in the space. And I'm not saying this like, oh my gosh, it's nothing. It's absolutely a crazy amount of money that would change anybody's life. But I'm saying this not in the context of, oh, that's chump change. I'm saying this in the context of, it's not really that sketchy for him. Like, it's not like they paid him like, here's $1 billion to go do this. It's like, they're trying to get in on something he's doing. They offered him enough money, and as much as he tries to downplay it, like, if you watch the episode, he's like, whatever. It's like, it's because they, you probably negotiated and they gave you a number you couldn't refuse. Because if you're Tim, you're doing the money, you're getting this and that. But if someone offers you like a lump sum per month and you sign a contract, that's nice to have that stability. So, I'm just trying to walk through the logistics. Hopefully this isn't boring to people, but I see a lot of people accusing Tim, and like a lot of right wingers, they just so happen to mostly be right wing Zionists, which Tim is a friend of a lot of them. I don't think Tim has been bad. He's been pretty even keeled, or perhaps like leaning pro Israel in his stances, but his guests tend to flip flop and he brings on both sides of the equation, which is totally fine. I'm just noticing like the people that are trying to drag Tim down and drag Tucker Carlson down, they're trying to like hurl heavy accusations. And there's other people too. There's like, people who are critical of Zionism that hate Tim Pool and they're trying to drag him down. So to be fair, I do see it coming from all sides, but I did notice there's a pretty large subsect of conservative media that's trying to pile on Tim right now and act like he was more involved than he really was. And one person, I'm not saying they're in that ilk necessarily, but I'm going to bring somebody on tomorrow, as long as they don't back out, and have a debate, because this person that I'm going to bring on, it's a woman that I've been on her show. Not going to name names because it's not necessary now, but she's been tweeting articles of people calling Tucker Carlson a Jew hater and like saying Tim Pool should be like really weird stuff going on, where I'm like, why is Tucker Carlson that? Like, just, there's some weird stuff going on in conservative media. I just want to have an open discussion about it. But long story short, a lot of people are trying to really bury Tim with this. And I personally, as much as I do think he's a dumpster beanie gremlin and I despise him, I have his back. I mean, not like literally his back. I don't give a shit. Like, that's up to him and his lawyers, etc. Like, I don't, he's not my boy like that. But I'm saying, as far as my analysis of the situation, it's not that unbelievable that he just signed a licensing deal that he really had no part in. And I don't think that he knew the stuff. Here's where it gets interesting. So let me just play this clip, because this is the most interesting clip. He says that the FBI contacted him and that he will be essentially working with them. I mean, maybe you'll interpret it differently, but he said they called me and, I'm going to help them in any way I can with this case, which is just interesting. I mean, let me know what you think in the comments. Here's that clip and tell me if you interpreted it the same way I did.
And then, we have people tweeting at me like, give the money back or whatever it is. Like, dude, let me put it this way. We're talking to our legal team. I can say that I just announced I've been contacted by the FBI as a victim of a potential victim in a crime. They have stated that I may have information relevant to their ongoing investigation and requested a voluntary interview. So engaging with counsel, we are going to provide, assistance in whatever way we can. And that's about it. I mean,
so he says he's going to provide assistance to the FBI in any way he can for this, Russian plot. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'll tell you in a second. I just want to see what you guys are saying. All right. Well, nobody's saying that much. I guess I'll get back to my own perspective. I'm sure the pressure is pretty heavy on him right now. This is the flip side to fame and money and success. In all due respect, it's like if you want to go to certain levels of podcasting or of influence, and especially if you want to start, intertwining with other media companies and stuff, then this type of stuff, it could backfire or it could go in your direction. It could be like you have a backing of a big network, but also you could get tied into other stuff. So, Tim's doing really well, but now he's got the feds calling him and he's got to work with them or something in order to solve this big Russian mystery with, the company that he licensed for. It's probably stressful. So it'll be interesting. Like, I'm sure some people will call him like a snitch and stuff because he's, he said he's providing information, but at the same time, I don't know. I can't tell you what it's like to work for a media company like that with a huge DOJ accusation. And then he's got the feds calling him for that. And then he says he's going to talk, it seems all really stressful to me. I'm at this point, like looking at the whole media sphere, I was always like, I wonder why certain media companies don't want to work with me. And then I realized what conservative media really was. And I was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. And then this one pops up out of nowhere. And I bet Tim probably thought it was like just outside of that system. And then it ends up being this. I mean, it sucks for him. And I do want to say this too, as far as like, I've made it clear that I don't like Tim, but I don't think Tim is like the most sold out person in conservative media. I think he plays a certain game to like keep his business afloat. But if you gave me a list of like everybody in conservative media, he's definitely not in my top 10 favorite personalities. But as far as like big structures, like Timcast, whether people want to admit it or not, it's a big structure. It's definitely like it does big numbers. It's a big business. Like he does a lot of big things. Out of all the big wigs, like Tim probably is in a weird way one of the least sold out people in that upper echelon of like big businesses. I'm not saying necessarily he has the biggest influence, but he does run a structure that generates a lot of revenue. He gets a lot of big interviews. He's established himself as like a top 5, Republican or conservative leaning podcast or political podcast, whatever you want to call it. So, I do find it weird that they're cracking down on him right now, because as much as I don't like him, he's not like the most sold out or anything. He seems like he's the least sold out. He's just the most concerned with, I think, other things. And, that's to be spoken about at another time. But I want to play this clip because I saw Clint Russell tweet this and I thought it was pretty funny. It's Ben Shapiro basically selling something for a foreign country in his show. And apparently wasn't this one, but maybe it was like behind the paywall. I'm not really sure like where this comes from, but Clint tweeted it and I'm just going to play the clip real quick.
It's frustrating to get entangled in whatever it is she's accused of being involved in.
Folks, our friends in Israel need our help now more than ever. If you're looking for a tangible way to support the Holy Land, you need to check out Artza Box. Artza brings the essence of Israel right to your doorstep. Every 3 months, you receive a carefully curated collection of authentic Israeli products. A treasure.
So the reason I highlighted that, like, I don't really care. Like, Ben can sell Israeli stuff and say, we want to support Israel. Like, I don't care. To me, that's his American right to do that. Like, I don't think you should tell an American citizen like Ben what to say about foreign countries, especially if he has a, religious and a racial connection to that country. But I just find it wild that it's like, imagine if a Russian influencer from Russia was selling Russian goods and telling you that you have to support Russia. Like, would you even be allowed to do that in America? This is the part that I don't understand, but I talked about it in yesterday's podcast and it's a longer one. I'm going to keep this one short. So if you want my like long analysis on this, you can watch that one. but the rules are not applied equally to every foreign country. It really matters what the State Department and the US government, who they're working with and who they're working against. And if there's a country that they're working with, you can essentially work for that country and they won't even care. I mean, I'm just going to say this because I see the accusations flying and I'm willing to debate this. And I'm like I said, I'm having someone on the show to debate pretty much this exact topic. But there is a journalist that I won't name just to be, chill for today, where he published this huge dossier on Substack or whatever. And he said that Tucker Carlson is like a Jew hater and he's anti-Semitic and he hates Jews. Like, he's publishing this whole message, right? And this guy, I followed him during the pandemic. We got along. He retweeted my stuff. I shared his. I don't care what his foreign policy is. I don't care if I think he's Jewish. I didn't even know at the time. I don't care. I don't care if he is Israeli or wherever. Like, it doesn't matter to me. I liked his work and I liked what he did with the pandemic. He seemed like a really honest guy. I go to Twitter one day, like without any argument with him at all over anything. Like, we got along. He blocked me on Twitter, and I'm noticing a lot of people are like, he blocked me and we never even spoke. It's like this guy is so Zionist that he just blocks anybody that isn't like super like obsessed with like everything he is. And then I noticed because like he got enough, there's people getting in a fight with Cassandra Fairbanks, who works for Tim Pool, who I like, by the way. When I say like Tim's staff sucks, Cassandra was not there. It was somebody else doing the booking. Like, it wasn't her, because everyone always thinks like I'm shading her. Like, oh, Anomaly, is it her? Like, she wasn't there when I was booked, so it has nothing to do with her. But with that being said, she retweeted this video that I'd never seen before, and that same journalist that's calling Tucker Carlson a Jew hater got caught in some documentary where he admitted that he was running and working for this group called the Israel Project and running pages like without like secretly without telling anybody. So this is just what I'm saying. I don't care. Like, people like this country, they like that country. Me personally, I'm American. I know it's going out of style nowadays, but imagine if a Russian worked for something called the Russia Project and then ran around conservative media calling everyone like you just hate Russians when you notice that I work with Russia. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's what people like Ben Shapiro and this journalist do constantly. They're constantly accusing people of hating their ethnicity while they openly lobby for a foreign country, while they say it's hate speech to say that you're doing it. And I just find it like wild. It's like, I understand why. That's our ally. In my opinion, you're not supposed to be able to say this, but I think that country has so much leverage over our country that our country essentially works for that country. I'm not saying you can't say that, but like, I just said it, so I don't really know what to do at this point. Like, that's what I actually think. But in general, it's like, it's not being displayed equally. Like, I don't think there would be like a Russia project in America that works for Russian and Russians would be allowed to do that. Like, some ethnicities can do that and some can't. I just find it wild when people literally do work for companies that are working essentially for or lobbying for a foreign country. I just find it wild that they're the ones always accusing everybody else. And I just noticed something. That ilk of the conservative media, they're trying to bury Tim Pool right now and say, look, like, destroy Tim Pool. And here's, I have a lot of opinions about it, but like, maybe they're salty over the DeSantis versus Trump primary because, like, he was more on the Trump side. Like, he turned up on DeSantis and a lot of the DeSantis, like, Zionists got mad or whatever. But I don't know, like, to me, like, Tim has been a friend to those people as well. Like, he just has all the sides on, and Tim, like, he's annoying to me. I don't like him as a person, but I wouldn't say he's very, in my opinion, super pro-Israel and defends Israel. And anytime he has a guest on that's criticizing Israel, Tim's always playing the journalist defending them. So, like, I don't even understand why these people are so mad at Tim Pool. Like, and it's not even just mad at him, but like, when I call him a dumpster gremlin and I say, he's like Diglett, the Pokemon, where he crawls up under the dirt and puts a beanie on his head. This is not me saying like, oh, Tim's entire channel should be taken down and because he worked with Russia. Like, I wouldn't jump to, I just like to make fun of him publicly because it's hilarious. But at the same time, I'm very graceful when it comes to like the reality of the situation. A lot of these people, they're trying to ruin the career of Tucker Carlson. They're trying to ruin Tim Pool and suggest that he's doing more. Like the liberal DOJ says that hates probably any conservative that is pro-Russia or anti-Ukraine. I wouldn't even say pro-Russia, just like against the Ukrainian funding. You don't think the DOJ, if they had that on Tim Pool, that he was literally you don't think they would have included that in their thing? Like, the DOJ doesn't like people who criticize Ukraine. And even they said that Tim Pool was a victim. So why would Republicans be calling Tim, like pushing for Tim Pool to get in more trouble? It's like even the DOJ that has every reason to want to frame Tim as that, they can't even frame Tim as that because they don't have enough information. Like it was I mean, I don't think Tim's that dumb to be like, if he knew that some like Russian foreign national had a fake name and was funding it, like Tim, like he said in that interview, to be honest, like I'm sure he wanted that money because it was like quick money from a company that seemed like they were American. But he doesn't need the money. Like he's not that desperate that he would like ever take money purposely from a foreign country. I don't think so, at least. Like he's got enough money. Like it's not, he doesn't need that so badly. Like even though it's a lot to most people and it's a lot to me, it's just like he didn't do it. Like if they were like, oh, it's coming from Russia, he probably would have said no immediately. So this is my opinion, hating Tim Pool. Like I don't like him at all. I despise him, but I'm so graceful in defending him when I feel like it's right. And I just noticed a pattern that people that are trying to ruin the career of Tim Pool and Tucker Carlson over, having an interview or being tied to this or that, these are the same people that have 20 times the ties to a different foreign country, but it's just openly acceptable in this country. And the hypocrisy is just stunning, but they don't see it that way. Like if you notice that that's happening, they just say that you're being hateful. So it's like this weird game. So, it's interesting. Someone said, I'm not a Russian, so this should be safe money. Thank you, Isadora. Appreciate the non-Russian money from the super chat. Someone said it would be hilarious if Russia donated to Kamala's campaign online just to see how the DOJ would react. Yeah, I mean, this is another thing too. It's like I want to see more coming out, but to me, this is just me. And I'm not throwing Lauren Chen under the bus because maybe she got tricked as well. It's a heavy possibility. Tim is like lower in that totem pole. Like it's the company of Lauren and her husband. Tim was just getting contracted. Like, for example, imagine this is just I'm going to make up a new podcast so I don't have any like implications. Okay. Let's just say there's a podcast called the Rowboat podcast, and they're like, as big as Daily Wire, PBD podcast or something. And they say, hey, Anomaly, like we want to work with you. Here's the deal. And I'm like, I don't know. And we negotiate. And then I start working with that company and they either fund it or like it's going on their channels. Like there would be a deal there where they'd give me a certain amount of money and then we would negotiate like you own 50%, I own 50%. I get it in 5 years. You own my likeness or you get my likeness for a couple of years. These are all in the negotiations. I own everything that I do. Nobody owns anything else. But, if the right deal came along that I thought that I wowould keep creative control, but at the same time, it would elevate my, what I wanted to do and I felt good about it, then there's a possibility I might do it. I like if they were getting their money from somewhere else, how would I know? You understand? Like when someone, for example, like I do social media consulting. It's like if someone wants to work with me, it's like I don't ask them like, hey, how much money do you have? Like where do you get all your money? So I highly, 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 highly doubt that Ben or whatever his name is, Tim Pool. I highly doubt that he knew where the money was coming from. Like that's just my opinion from the side that he's on, in a sense where like I've negotiated contracts, I've looked at contracts, I understand the money going around in podcasting, how it works. Tim is so big that it is believable that he could negotiate a deal where he had full creative control and they just wanted licensing so they could use it for their leverage. Like, and then the amount, it's not many because most people have Tim's back, but the amount of people in right-wing media that are like trying to get him in more trouble or suggesting he was like full-blown working with Russia, it's just interesting to me because when it's all said and done, we'll know, but it's creepy when stuff like this happens. Because I remember one time Tim was mentioned in some sort of like manifesto one time, or like some, I don't remember if it was a left-wing shooter or right-wing shooter, but when some tragedy happens and like some psychopath does some evil stuff, and then they say something like they're tranny or they're this or they're right-wing, and then the media comes out, and if it's a tranny, then the Republican media comes out and they're like, see, look what the trannies are doing. They're killing all the kids. And then if it's like, a right-wing shooter, or the media says it's a right-wing shooter, then all the liberals say, see, Candace Owens, Tim Pool, look what you're doing. Look, you caused these deaths. It's really creepy on all sides, in my opinion, but especially like, I think Tim was mentioned one time in one of those things, and that's got to be kind of scary. I mean, he keeps his cool and stuff, but I'm just being honest. Like, imagine if there was some tragedy and someone like, And here's where my mind goes to that too. It could literally be that because people watch the internet and these are popular personalities, but also, do you know how easy it would be for like an agency or someone to just like plant like, oh, look, this bad person listed all the podcasts that I also don't like on their thing. Now let's go investigate all of these like it's so easy for them to do that. So I even wondered that with the situation. I know nothing about it, but it's like, of course, it could be a nefarious person in Russia. There's evil people in Russia. There's foreign influence from Russia. I'm not saying it doesn't exist or it's impossible, but like it's that easy. Like all it takes is one thing like that. And it's like you work for this company, you know nothing about it. And now you got the FBI calling Tim Pool and him saying he's going to cooperate and, you know, help in any way necessary. It's just like, you know, I hope that it's all what it says it is. So it's just a great American story of like, you know, America helping out against the foreign nation. But these are the things that I think when I hear stuff like this, that all it takes is one tragedy or one situation for them to have an excuse to pretty much go after anybody they want, call anybody they want, you know, harass anybody they want, threaten anybody they want. And, you know, someone said he's a part of the big show. You could think that. I mean, I'm not, like I said, I don't like Tim Pool. I could list 20 different reasons, but I don't think he's I don't think he's like a part of the big show, but he's a part of some part of it, you know? But these are the games that you have to play to get to some part of it, where it's like, if you want that, then there's a whole host of other problems that come with it. But also what I do know is that like whenever you have success as somebody that's done well, people will start accusing you of everything, where it's like, it's easy for you to say that here, you know, like me and Tim do different stuff. I'll poke fun at them and whatever, but it's like, I'm putting myself out there, putting my face out there. I've gotten billions of views. I have millions of followers. You know what I'm saying? I'm building a media thing. Like I'm out there. So like when you're on the field, I have, and I'm not saying, of course, like not everybody's going to want to do podcasting. And I don't want everyone to do podcasting because every time you talk to anybody, everybody's starting a podcast. Yeah, we know, you know, it's the new cool thing. But, you know, it's like being a fan of MMA and then you talk shit all the time to like MMA fighters. It's like, why don't you get in the octagon? Because you'd get the shit kicked out of you. You know, that's just the truth. So with podcasting, it's like, as much as people want to say that, you could say that, but if you're not doing it at a big level or trying to do it at a big level, it's you know, like I've seen 50 different theories about me and they're all wrong. These people know nothing about me. They don't know about the work I put in. They don't know about how I did what I did and the hardship it took to get here. And then you have the success, and then everybody with an anonymous account just wants to say, oh, you're working with the Illuminati, and you're like, you have no idea. It's not true. But it's just like, you get what I'm saying? It's just like everybody has an opinion. So Tim, I mean, I think Tim plays a certain game to get along with certain people and make certain money. Absolutely. But I don't know that I believe Tim Pool's like a plant that they put there. Like, I think he's a hardworking kid who got there, and, you know, he's just kind of a dickhead. And I don't think he's very genuine about certain topics, but he's probably purposely not genuine about certain topics because he knows that, like, he's not playing the same game everyone else is. Like, so I still make fun of him, but I think when people just say like, oh, he's a part, it's easy to say that about every single person. And some people probably are playing a role, but I think when you're on the field and you put in that work and you're like, you know, it's like, let me give you an example. I don't know if I'm explaining this properly. Like there'll be like an anonymous account on Twitter that's like, oh, you're not edgy enough to say what I'm saying. Bro, you're not even man enough to put your own face there and put your own identity there. So it's like you're telling me what to say, but you're not even confident enough of yourself to say it yourself. So why are you anonymous on Twitter? Like, why isn't at least your face on there? Why is it some like random frog picture or whatever? And it's like, oh, well, I don't want to get in trouble. Okay, well then you want me to get in trouble for something that you know would get you in trouble? Like I don't understand it. It's hard for me to respect people that don't put themselves out there. At least if you don't put yourself out there, then you shouldn't be super douchey to people who are. Like, your opinion only goes so far. Do it yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got this frog picture, you're talking all this shit. Okay, put your face and do that. Like, there's people that do that and put their face there. I respect those people because I'm like, that's ballsy. You know what I'm saying? They're saying what they believe is true and they don't care the consequences, versus someone that's trying to push somebody else to say like, be me. It's like, ew, I don't want to be you. You know, why would I be you? You're not. Who are you? Like, I'm better than you. Okay, sure you are. You know, you tell yourself that. But anyway, on this note, This is my last. Someone said Tim Pool won't talk about half the stuff Anomaly does, especially how Israel has a lot of control. Yeah, no, he definitely won't do that. But, his guests will do it. And then he'll yell at them and be like, oh, talk about Sudan. And you're like, all right, bro. Or he'll be like, talk about Africa. And you're like, okay. He definitely gatekeeps that topic pretty hard. But, he also allows his employees to think differently than him, which is why I've always respected him a little bit, even though I don't really respect him as a man. But, Cassandra Fairbanks, she thinks way differently than Tim, and Tim allows her to work with him, right? If you look at something like Daily Wire, and this is what I'll end on this note, like with Daily Wire, I knew before Candace Owens came out and had her whole thing, like I knew that they had a line. I didn't know what Candace would do or like what her line was, but it's like, if you want to work for Daily Wire, you pretty much have to be like Israel first, or at least be like Matt Walsh and not go where you probably would go if you work somewhere else, and know where the line is that is acceptable to the people that you work with. Like I always knew that that was their line. Candace showed the world that that was their line, but I always knew that that was their line. So it's like, to get certain places, you have to play certain games. I don't know what Tim does or who he does business with, but I would assume that Tim is playing a game, but Tim allows people to work with him that think differently. I think it's hard to get a job in Republican media if you're not like a totally complacent, like obsessed Zionist that never ever questions the narrative. Like this is why I can't work at these companies, because I question everything. My ethnicity, my religion, my country, my party. I've been very questioning Trump. I questioned DeSantis. I questioned the pharmaceutical vaccine. I'm consistent. It's not like I just sit and talk about one thing. Like I question everything. I've never run into problems on the right. They had no problem with me doing any of that stuff until that same level of scrutiny and just curiosity and honesty came with the relationship of America and Israel and the hypocrisy. Like I don't care if you're an American citizen of an ethnicity that loves a foreign country and lobbies for them. But then if you're going to cry hate when someone notices that you're doing it, like you're just a liar. You could say whatever you want. You have speech laws backing you. There's dozens of countries around the world that you get arrested for saying that. Like, I don't know what it's like to be that. Like if they had, I'm part Italian, I'm part Polish. If there were Italian speech laws and I knew that people got thrown in jail and there's Italian speech laws being passed all over the country, like, I don't know what it's like to then just cry Italian hate when I know I have speech laws behind me. Like it's a certain level of delusional, or at least a certain level of just dishonesty, where it's like, I don't have those speech laws behind me. And I don't cry victim, even about the white stuff and people hate white people. Where do you see me cry the victim? I'm like, white people, wake up. You know what I'm saying? I'm not, it's your fault too. It's not like, oh, cry the victim. But it's like, that's the reality that we live in. And that's like 99% of conservative media. So I find that interesting with this. And I mean, we'll see what comes out, but it's like Lauren was somebody that was super outspoken on those topics. So, and now they're trying to frame it as like, if you're outspoken on that topic, then you must be working for Russia. And it's like, wow, that's a crazy game that they're playing. So it's like, the right is so similar to the left. Like they use the same sneaky tactics. Like if they can't out debate you and they know that you're telling the truth and they're lying and they have speech laws behind you, then they try to just find a way to like smear your character completely and throw you under the bus. And the second that they get the chance, they're like, get him, get him, get him, get him. And it's like, whoa, I hate Tim Pool more than most people, but I'm not even doing that now, because the truth is he made a lot of money before that. It wasn't even his main podcast on the Tenet Media. It was his Culture Wars podcast, which I'm guessing they grossly overpaid for because it's a side podcast. They're paying him a shitload of money. It made sense to him, but it also made sense. Like, yeah, I'm Tim Pool. I'm making millions or tens of millions of dollars. Like, of course, somebody's going to want a piece of it and give me a lot of money. So it's like, as much as I despise Tim Pool, and I think he might sleep in a king size, like Egyptian cloth bed or Egyptian cotton bed because he's rich. But he also, like, part of me thinks he probably sleeps in a dumpster because he's disgusting. But jokes aside, as much as I don't like Tim, I don't know anything until it's all really out there. But I would never just jump on him and be like, yeah, he's working for a foreign nation. Get him, get him, get him. Like, that's what some people in Republican media are doing. And the crazy part is a lot of these people are people that I feel like Tim probably thought were his friends. That's why I don't really have many friends in this game, because it's like, if you're my friend, you're my literal friend. Like, I'm not I'm not like, oh, you invited me to an award show, we're best friends now. It's like, I know who's who. So someone said Tim's probably kicking himself now for getting involved in someone else's company. Yeah, for sure. But that's the thing. It's like if somebody like, I talked to PBD, but it never worked out. Like, imagine if he offered something that made so much sense, where it was like, I get to be creative, I get to be myself, but now I get to work with different people and get this amount of money. And then they get involved in a certain scandal, and then everybody's like pointing at me, and you're like, oh, I didn't know that was going to happen. But that's like Tim did that on a big scale, where I guarantee that he wished he never did that. But I bet they offered such a big amount of money and overpaid so much for that show. I'm just making up numbers, so please do not quote this. This is not official. I'm not trying to get sued by Tim. But like, let's just say his Culture War show was making like 5,000 an episode, or 1,000 an episode, or 10,000 an episode, or even 20,000 an episode. And keep in mind, this is not Tim Pool's main show. It's his side little thing. And then someone comes along and they say, we're going to give you $100,000 per episode, and you're going to do 4, and it's going to be $400 a month or whatever. I'm not saying these are the official numbers because I don't know, but like, say it's making 10,000 an episode and they're offering you 100,000 an episode, and you go through all your lawyer stuff and you really look at it and you're like, I mean, it's a win. Let's do it. Like, it had to be so big that he was like, yeah. And he's trying to downplay it now because he's like, yeah, this is industry standard, which is true. Like, the big way, Joe Rogan's making hundreds of millions of dollars. Travis Kelce apparently is going to make $100 million, like, or more. Tony Hinchcliffe, Tony Hinchcliffe is selling out Madison Square Garden. The dude's a rock star. I bet he's getting $100 million contracts. Theo Vaughn, in my opinion, if Joe Rogan's worth $400 million, $200 million, whatever, Theo Vaughn's starting to get in that category. So, this is the industry we live in. So even if someone's going to overpay for something, you assume that they see the value in you and they want to build something like that. I remember when Matt Walsh went on the Joe Rogan podcast, and he said that the What is a Woman documentary, it brought in like 200,000 to 400,000 subscriptions. He said something like that. How much are Daily Wire subscriptions? I mean, I'm just going to look right now because it's like, this is the industry we work in. Subscription. Let's see. Daily Wire subscription is, I don't know. Can somebody tell me? It says $13 or $15 a month. Let's just say $15 a month, okay? Because it's fluctuated. Maybe they did it lower. Say a Daily Wire subscription is $15 a month. Matt Walsh's documentary brings in $300,000 subscribers. 15 times 300,000. I'm not a math wizard, but I do believe that is $4.5 million a month. Just a month, not a year, a month. So if you build the right subscription model, you can make hundreds of millions of dollars. If you sell the brand you've built to Spotify or somebody else, a tenant media perhaps, you could make a lot of money. So to the people that are like, oh, they're overpaying or whatever, Tim Pool, it's like, yeah, it's not that crazy that he thought that was a good idea. I'm sure he is kicking himself. I'm sure, I know he is. I watched the Ben Shapiro interview. You could watch it if you want. He's really bummed out that he took that deal. But, that's the risk you take. Like, do you sit and do nothing? Do you sit and do it your own, or do you go with someone else? Even with me, I'm going to end on this note, keep it under like 40 minutes or so. With me, these are the things that I think about for myself. Cause like, what do I want to do? I've gotten billions of views. I have millions of followers right now. I'm undervaluing myself because I'm not doing everything that I should be doing if I wanted to make the most amount of money. So I have like questions in my head. It's like, do I want to go bigger? What does that entail? Because like when you become like Benny Johnson or Tim Pool or like these people like Candace Owens, Ben Shapiro, you got to get lawyers. Like everything's a lawsuit. He's suing you. You're suing them. They're suing them. Benny Johnson just said, my lawsuits are about to go out over this court case. Listen to Tim Pool, and he says, we're getting my lawsuits ready. It's like, do I want that? Do you want that? Like, I guess that comes with the territory, but, to me, that just sounds miserable. Like, I don't want to sit in millions of lawsuits all the time. It just sounds exhausting. So it's like, I'm always kind of wrestling with that in my head where I don't want to not strike while the iron's hot. I want to be able to retire whenever I want and make enough that I'm like, I could just dip out. I think that's like powerful. But at the same time, it's like everything comes at a cost. Like, you know, you want that money, but then you tie yourself to a media company that ends up having ties to Russia. It's just like, damn, you know, like that. And that's a random kind of like, it could happen to anybody, I guess, but it's just like, these are the games that you have to play. Like, the higher you climb and the more business you do, the more lawsuits you have to get into, the more nonsense you have to get into. So this is something that I've been thinking about, because part of me just wants to go for it. And it's like, I don't want to do this till I'm 50 or 60. I don't want to be like Sean Hannity on television throwing a Nerf football to start a war in the Middle East or something. Like, I think I want to like do something else in like 5 years, to be honest. So part of me wants to go really hard for a couple of years and do well and stack up money and then just like peace out. But other part of me is like, I don't know if I even want to do that, because I don't know, some weird shit going on here. Clearly, like, it's just like, this election too is interesting, because as much as the, you know, everything's sold out and this and that, like, I really do believe that they don't want Trump to win, not necessarily for all the reasons that people think, but they really don't want Trump to win. And I think that if the Democrats win, like, they want to do what Brazil's doing to Elon Musk. Like, as much as like we all say, like, the parties are the same, there's certain things that will never change. The foreign party, the banking, like, I'm not saying that there isn't a uniparty. There is a uniparty. And on many issues, Trump and RFK are in on it, whether people want to admit they are or not. Trump and RFK are not completely like free balling. Like, they're sold out on some of the biggest topics. But with that being said, there is a difference between them and the Democratic Party and the Cheneys. Like, the Cheneys and the Democratic Party and that uniparty, they would be totally fine with what Brazil's doing or what they do in Europe. Like, they want more speech censorship and more control. And this new wave of like Elon Musk and Trump, they're not perfect. They're sold out on a lot of topics too, but they're trying to reject that and keep some form of like freedom. And this is the thing. Like, I mean, I don't know what happened with Lauren, and we'll see what happens when it comes out. But I believe that a Democrat establishment, they want to crack down on all of us. Like, I don't think they want, and I think they do it now in just like little sneaky ways, but it's like, I don't think they want any big influence that isn't controllable. Like, that's a threat to them. How much money do they have? I don't know what their budget is for their agencies and stuff, but do you know how much money they've probably spent since like 1950 until now to control mass media and public perception for Americans' interests? And the fact that there's so many people now that are outside of their payroll, I'm sure they hate the crap out of it, you know, and Twitter is a huge threat to that, because Elon lets people fly a little bit more and lets the algorithm be a little more natural. His AI is better than everyone else's. Like, as much as you could say Elon's a sellout or this or that, like, there's levels to a sellout, and like, Elon is not the worst. Just like Tim Pool, I think he might live in a dumpster, but he's not as bad as Rachel Maddow. He does yell too much, and, you know, he should chill out a little bit, but like, he's, you know, it's like, he's not as bad as some of these people. And even if he was as bad, he's not so gung-ho about the censoring opposition as all these other people truly are. So I think that is on the ballot this election. I'm going to make a video about it, but a lot of people will say, like, say you don't do podcasting at a big level or newscasting, you could be like, oh, this election doesn't matter. Sure. I mean, I think it does to some extent, but like, yeah, there's things that might not change. But the thing is, like, you know, they come down the ladder and then they come for you. And in some cases, some people already have been persecuted, but it's like with Alex Jones. I don't know what role he's playing. He's done some good things. He's done some weird things. He seems a little sneaky to me, but whatever. You know, I've always traditionally personally liked him. When they came for him, like, I already knew right away, like, it's not about what I think of him or what you think of him. It's about, if they can justify this with Alex Jones or David Icke, then they could justify it with everybody else. So the Elons and the Trumps and everything else, they figured this out a little bit more than Democrats have. And the Democrats and the establishment want to do that. And, that's the truth, where it's like, if Kamala wins, as much as I say that Trump is a sellout and RFK is a sellout, like, if Kamala can solidify and know, like they did in California to some extent, like, you know, we're going to win for the next 20 years. Like, there is no democracy anymore. Like, we'll find a way to win. The type of shit that they'll do is creepy. And I know that they definitely don't like voices in the media and stuff like that. So, you know, we'll see. Let me know what you think in the comment section. God bless you. God bless America. God bless the family. God bless you. God bless America. God bless your family, and God bless the world. Let me know what you think. If you want, for credit, full interview Ben Shapiro did with Tim Pool. My takeaway from it is Tim is out here speaking, saying that he is, he's definitely not thrilled about the fact that he did a deal with them. But this is my personal guess, knowing not about that deal, but just about this industry. Tim makes a shitload of money. Tim could have done without them, like he says. He did the deal because they probably just gave him a good amount of money that he, it's like if you can get any money from somebody but still keep your rights and have that income flowing without having to worry about this and that and this, it's nice. So they probably overpaid for it. He probably was cool with it at the time, even though he's really picky with what he gives out. And now I'm sure he'll probably very rarely do any deals anymore with anyone. And even me, it's like I'm thinking about this too, because it's like no matter what I'm doing, now I'm gonna like vet everything 20 times harder, because like if someone says, hey, I have like someone who's gonna do this and that, like I ask some questions, but I'm not like, where are they from? What, like do they have a fake name? Like I don't know, like now you got to worry about fake names and stuff, and make sure that someone's not lying to you, and their friend of a friend of a friend of a friend that's connected to the company's not lying. Like should definitely change the game. But yeah, I don't like the fact that people are trying to take this as an opportunity to say that Tim Pool's working for a foreign country. I don't believe he is. And I'm willing to debate this tomorrow in multiple facets. I hope this lady's coming on because she was very nice to me. She's a very lovely lady, and she had me on the show. It was great. We get along, and I wouldn't block her. She didn't block me. And she just shared an article, saying that Tucker Carlson was a Jew hater, and she seems to be dunking on Tim super hard and saying like, oh, the Republicans are letting him off the hook too easy. So I already know what I think. You guys know what I think. Wouldn't it be great to bring someone on that disagrees with me about those two topics and have a friendly and honest conversation? Hopefully that's what happens tomorrow. I'm going to enjoy it. I hope you do too. Let me know in the comment section what you think. And also let me know what you think about the whole FBI angle to it as well. Of course, when there's some huge DOJ thing, like a lot of things are going to be involved. But now it seems like, they reached out to Tim and he's willing to cooperate because he really has nothing to do with the nefarious part of that deal. But like, just think about that. Like, do you think that that's what Tim Pool wants to do? Like he's trying to do a show right before an election. Now the FBI is coming at him and he's got to give an interview to him. It's like that's the type of shit. Like it's stressful, and it's just like, I don't know, podcasting and all this stuff. It's just not what it used to be. I don't know if that's really the truth, but you get what I'm saying. It's like there's certain people and certain foreign countries and certain influence and certain corporations that seem to just get away with whatever they want. And then, if you're Tucker Carlson or Tim Pool or someone else, it seems like the scrutiny and the accusations are like times 50 on you. So, with that out there, it's just an interesting climate. Thanks for being here. Some of the comments are extra today. Find God and have a good weekend.
Hey, what's going on, my friends? Just a few ways to stay in touch and support if you'd like to. The first way is dreamrare.com. We have blue beanies, black beanies, pink hats, other colored hats, freedom versus tyranny shirts, stay blessed long sleeve, God is great long sleeve, and lots of more cool items coming soon. Dreamrare.com. Check out the shop to support. Everything's made in the United States.